This week in Pure Reinvention.
But it's the constant thing is so many people expect you to falter under pressure. So they keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. But once they realize that you don't, they stop pushing.
Episode 102, Anita Quillen.
Engage, disrupt, adapt, repeat. You're listening to Pure Reinvention, the podcast for curious people.
Welcome to this episode of Pure Reinvention, where we create space for the unexpected by inspiring a reinvention lifestyle. Julie, Anita Quillen is so inspiring.
She is very inspiring. She is willing to take on a challenge. She will not take no. She's willing to do the hard work to learn what she needs to know, and she's willing to repurpose herself when something doesn't work out.
Julie is the CEO of the Michigan State Medical Society. One of the things that struck me in our conversation was Anita's role as a mother in teaching her young son some lessons. Can we make sure that we talk about that when we come back and debrief?
Yeah, she has some important points there, and I think they're worth talking about.
Let's listen.
This week's episode is sponsored by Willpower Consulting. Whether it be pursuing new avenues in content delivery like podcasts or developing a sustainable content building strategy, Willpower Consulting is with you every step of the way. Get a dose of willpower at WilliamRCarlson.com or at WilliamRCarlson on Twitter.
We had so much fun with Anita in our first conversation that we asked Anita to discuss with us a little of the background that has allowed her to be the special and unique leader that she is, and this is what Anita told us. Anita, how is it that you were able to look at the wonderful work you're doing today? What are the things that were in your background that really allowed you to accumulate into some of the characteristics of your leadership style today?
It's actually quite interesting and quite diverse. I had wanted to be a medical doctor since I was a young girl. It's the only thing I ever dreamed of. It was my goal. I went to undergraduate with the anticipation to get a pre-med degree. I'm actually a couple classes short of a microbiology degree at Michigan State. And towards the end, I took a part-time job at which was formerly known as Mid-American Products, which is now diversified, answering the phone, helping out with some ads and marketing items. Actually, not fully marketing items, just the ones that went to the employees. I didn't even get the privilege to do those marketing items yet. But I had a part-time job there, and I pretty much fell in love. I found an industry where I thrived, the people I enjoyed working with. So I kind of deterred from that and ended up getting my master's in business. Along that time was when the recession came about, and a lot of people were getting fearful of their jobs, or we had to do mass layoffs. And I, at one point, was managing two departments, the purchasing department, the HR department, which, as I kind of explained my background, I didn't have an educational background in. But my, I guess, aggressiveness as a person was just like, okay, you give me a challenge, I'm going to find out how the way that I can be successful at it. I was given minimal training, really. But it was more just that confidence that if I put in the time and I want to keep doing it, I can learn these things. So along with that, the recession kept going. We downsized as in a business and ended up going through a reorganization that I got some other outside people to go in and buy it with me outside of bankruptcy, and we took it and we turned the company around. So outside of that, I ended up buying two of the business owners out. So I spent a lot of time pretty much going from one department to the next. And remind you, I started in those departments with no prior knowledge of how they functioned. I went into purchasing and I had no idea what PO meant. I thought it was something like fancy and it was for a purchase order, but all these acronyms that came out, I got a one-day crash training course on how to order multi-million dollars worth of products, and I didn't know any of the acronyms, so I was going blind. But it's having that confidence that I know that I wanted to keep going, and I knowing the impact that I could have to be resourceful not only to the company, but the people that were there in the community to keep the business going. So it just kind of turned and turned over time, and my knowledge just kept growing because I didn't close any door. I would say, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything that's in that department, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'll figure it out somehow by Google. I started reading books. I would pick up anything that I could pick up just to feed my brain with the knowledge I need so I could talk more intelligently to someone so they couldn't say, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. So I would learn as much as I could every time I took over a different department or started to work in one.
Where did this hunger for knowledge come from, and the lack of fear to not be afraid to hit the button?
The hunger for knowledge has been there pretty much my whole life. My sister used to call me a fashionable nerd, which I take it as a compliment these days. I love it. I love to read. I like educational pieces. I like to learn that next best thing on how we can improve as individuals. So that's always been around. It's also been my parents have instilled that and really continually pushed me. You can do better. You can keep going. Always keep reaching for more. You never know what you can accomplish unless you keep trying.
Lucky you.
It doesn't mean I haven't failed, though, at the same time, because that's happened multiple times. Everyone has those dark days where you feel like you're kind of lost, and I had that transitional point out of college where I'm like, I just spent 4 years getting a microbiology degree, going through organic chemistry, going through calculus 2 in the summertime. Talk about the worst decisions ever and not very much fun. But taking that and saying, okay, I'm at a roadblock. What can I do next and where can I go? And don't take it as a roadblock. Take it as another bridge to the next street over that's going to take you in a different direction. So I took that along with wanting to learn consistently.
So, but you've approached almost all of these things and not been afraid. And most people will say they didn't do something because they were afraid. And here you are hitting button after button after button and wanting that door to open.
I wouldn't necessarily say that I wasn't afraid. I still get nervous talking in front of people. My palms still get sweaty, and I do it all the time. I even get nervous in front of people that I've worked with for over 10 years. It's taking that fear that you have and just controlling it enough that you're like, take a deep breath. Yes, you don't know anything. You're way in over your head, but we can get through this together. And a lot of it's psychological, to be honest. It's just having the confidence to listen to yourself, saying you can learn these things in time. And be honest with yourself that if a certain amount of time goes by and it's not a good fit for you, that you can find another opportunity somewhere else. It's the adaptability. Being adaptable is number one.
You have 2 young children?
I have 2 boys, 6 and 4.
2 boys.
And I grew up with all girls.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
This will be a good experience.
It's completely
for
different.
You. Yes.
It's pretty interesting.
But one of the things that I think is going to be, that I'm curious to learn about, is you've made reference to how important the expectation that your parents had for you was. And you've talked about how important teaching is. So as a mother, one of the most important roles you have amongst all of your roles,
Absolutely.
one of the more important roles you have is teaching these 2 young individuals to be successful in the world they are entering. So as a mother, as a leader, as a reinvention specialist, how are you going to raise these 2 young boys into the kind of leaders that will be successful in the future?
Personally, one of my top priorities raising these boys is to teach them that parenting is a shared responsibility. Housework is a shared responsibility. Running the errands, pickups, school items, allowing me to be a professional and a mom is the same as it is for the father. And hopeful that one day they'll meet someone just as strong and dominant as their mother is, which takes us, a special individual to do. And times have changed where moms work outside of the home. They work full time. They work at demanding jobs. And understanding that to take pride in those items in themselves, they need to support their significant other or their spouse to make sure that they're both successful. So that's really my top priority, is teaching them manners, respect, hard work, and you don't give up. You never give up. You're going to have a day where you're going to feel really bad for yourself, and you're going to be kind of depressed. And then one day you're going to snap out of it, and you need to wake up and you need to keep moving, just keep marching forward. It's like, they talk about those soldiers that march with the wet boots, and they just keep going because they know they have somewhere they need to get to. And that's what I'm constantly looking at and hoping that, I'll instill in them as young men eventually one day.
That the journey is one in which you have to own
Absolutely.
your own, and to march in whatever weather and overcome whatever obstacles, and do it in a way where you'll be a positive contribution to the world.
And be open that you're going to make mistakes, but be honest with them.
Anita, they're very lucky to have you as a mom. Anita, in the world of manufacturing, it seems to be made up of a predominantly male, as you've already referenced before, and I'm going to guess an older mindset. And you bring a very refreshing new leadership style, but I've got to imagine that it's come with its share of frustrations as a young female bringing in this reinventive thought. there has been a lot of obstacles to overcome and a lot of barriers for you to work through.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's part of my disruptiveness that I have going on, but I've had different encounters where I've been questioned how someone my age, being a female, can actually know how to run a business. I've been threatened in conference rooms to pretty much tell me if I don't do it their way, that they're going to, put the hammer down on me. And eventually, after time, I bought out some of those business partners because there wasn't a good relationship going on. But it's the constant thing is so many people expect you to falter under pressure. So they keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. But once they realize that you don't, they stop pushing. And then you can keep going.
So what you're really saying to those who are being challenged is that's the test.
Absolutely is a test. Keep your composure 100%. Lose it when you walk out and go into the restroom. That's where you can take your moment to be human. But while you're in that moment that you're being challenged, you need to act like you're the Tin Man and you can handle anything and that heart's not pumping and you're not feeling emotions coming on. Stay strong and keep going. Be assertive. Talk to them. Look them in their eye. And when you're done shaking underneath the table, you can go on and lose it somewhere else.
They will respect you for that, won't they?
Absolutely. Because I'm telling you, they will not push again. They'll understand that you're serious, you understand what you're doing, and you take this extremely serious.
Thank you for that advice.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Julie, as I listened to that podcast again, one of the things that really struck me that I asked you about in the intro was to talk about the role of a teacher that a leader has. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, she uses it with her own kids. From her experience, she learned you have to, I think she put it, march when the weather is bad. You have to know you're going to make mistakes, but be willing to learn from them and sort of correct from them. She wants to teach her sons that home balance is important to all sides of the family, that home focus is important for both parents, not just the female parent as it was more traditionally in the past, and that skill that they can take into their lives will make them better leaders because they'll think about the people they work with and for, or the people that work for them as having whole lives as well.
There are so many great lessons that Anita talked about that I want to try to get out in this follow-up. But one of the lessons that really struck me, Julie, was the recognition that it's okay as a leader to be afraid.
Right. She talked about doing things even though you're afraid, that you cannot wait till the fear is gone to act, and that in fact actually doing things makes you less afraid, makes you get used to doing those things, makes you used to taking on those roles, and makes you stronger and not backing down when people try to push your buttons and try to leverage your own fear against what you need to accomplish. She actually uses that to inspire her and to keep her moving forward.
So if that's true, then what comes before that, as Anita explained it, was that a leader has to be willing to take risks.
Right.
If you're going to be a leader, risk-taking is a part of the job description.
What's a bigger risk than buying a manufacturing company out of bankruptcy when she recognized that she had skill sets, but she didn't know everything she needed to run that company? And then she went back and did her homework in each of those departments and made sure she understood them and was willing to sort of learn on the job in each of those roles. And I'm sure it makes her a better leader for her employees that are running those areas now because she's lived it and she was willing to take that risk to do something she didn't understand. And she was willing to try to build that company back up for the sake of the company existing, for the sake of the jobs in the community, and for the sake of the employees that were there.
So what really struck me in listening to Anita was her absolute determination to not take no or to fail.
Right. She talked about being female and being in a manufacturing area, being younger, and that, there wasn't always a lot of respect for what she could do, and she's had to prove it not only to them, but to herself. And that is what makes her so powerful.
Julie, when we talk about reinvention, is it true to say that becomes a very important characteristic of all reinvention leaders, the ability to take risks and to not be afraid and to not take no for an answer?
All of those. I don't know of a leader of an organization or a company that isn't going through disruption and reinvention. That is the world we live in. You need those skills to carry forward, to have the, moxie to get up out of bed every morning and do it again, persistence and tenacity, hard work and learning, trying to have a vision of what you're trying to accomplish, which is sometimes more than just the task of running that company, but influencing a community.
So as leaders, and especially as female leaders, we do that during the day. But I was so impressed with Anita then taking that home.
Right.
And teaching her young sons some of those same valuable lessons. What does that say, Julie, about what the role of leadership has evolved to today?
I think the impact that you will have far beyond who you're working for and with today on the future generations, on the kind of opportunity and the kind of situation they will find themselves in, on their ability to take on challenges, on their ability to think about their life as a whole, not just as a career. I think those things will be ripple effects far into the future and will be good for us as a society.
You're really starting to drill home the fact that we need as leaders to also be mentors.
Absolutely.
If you're ready for a change, make it a change that lasts. Make it pure reinvention.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pure Reinvention. Keep the conversation going and get alerts when new podcasts are up by following us on Twitter @Pure Reinvention or sign up for our mailing list at purereinvention.com.